hopping right into it, but let's go for it. So why do they interest you?
I don't know. I've always been just so fucking interested in, like, crime as is. That sounds bad, but, like and I'm interested in, like, the way their mind works, like, the sociopathic side of it. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's something about the pathology that makes people turn evil, I guess, or criminal would be a better word. Do you guys think? I mean, what do you guys think? Do you guys think are people are born evil, or
I definitely
Okay,
think how they raised impacts some of their decisions
yes, how
on
they're raised because a lot of them have fucked up pasts.
yeah, I know my mom was watching a lot of The Deadliest Women. I used to watch all of the Lifetime series with her, where it was um, like true crime cases. We watch True TV, the ID channel, and a lot of the times, if you go to analyze people's history, it was based off of some sort of abuse, some sort of mental health issue. I mean, there wasn't necessarily a lot of. Well, I guess it depends on what you define as true evil, but there wasn't a lot of just evil that just spawned. It just seemed like there was, evil that was created, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of them have done abuse, but I also feel like there's a very few percentage too that are just born straight up sociopaths. Like, they're just straight up sociopathic from birth, and there was nothing that you could do to help that child. It was just a matter of, like, how they, like I get like, how they were raised probably didn't help it and led to where they, like, got to the point of being pushed to murder people.
Do you have any
And
classic examples?
oh, fuck.
It's
I'm
okay if you
blanking out.
don't. It's okay if you don't, because I don't have any examples off the top of my head. I mean, but we could literally take the main case, like the one person that everybody considers the most evil, right? Like Hitler. You know, I had to do a report on him a couple semesters ago, and he had a pretty normal childhood. The dude was pretty sane. I mean, up until the point of no return, but after that, like, it wasn't like he was abused. It wasn't like he was he was brought up in like a malnourished situation where like he was born amongst like a lot of family members and like one of his siblings had passed away. But it was just interesting to see his development into the sociopathic like tyrant that he became.
I feel also, like, this is just a weird, like, sociology fact I learned. Like, the most like, if people aren't, like, properly taken care of when they're a baby, that really will fuck them up later on in life.
Like they kind of like unconsciously develop symptoms.
Like, even like, there's studies that show, like, it really does affect your development. When you are a, like, baby, infant, like, newborn, all that, like, you have to have that like, intimate connection, I guess, with your parents. So, like, kids who are, like, thrown into the foster care straight off of birth and stuff and don't get that, like, intimate connection, like, get really fucked up in the head later on when they develop because they never had, like, the proper, like, loving, I guess, when they were younger,
Right, I
or, like
forget. I think it's Erickson who developed his theories on like maternal separation syndrome. I don't remember exactly what it is, um, but he figured that there's this maturation period where if the infant is separated from its mother, it doesn't properly develop empathy, and so I thought that was really interesting because I mean you could see how empathy is really important to like not go out and kill somebody because if you have a lack of empathy, then it doesn't like you don't give a shit. So
yeah.
it just depends. Oh wow, we have everybody joining in. What's up? Itman. We have Randy saying hi, Dylan. Ow, ow, bow, bow. Hey, what up, Daydreamers? What up, David? Welcome back. Haven't seen you in a minute. Randy saying hi, Crook. What's up, Josh? Haven't seen you in a minute. We got Mr. Jules in here. Tell Lex I said no. I think Lex muted herself for a second there so she could eat some chips.
Yeah, I did.
So what's your take on this?
Well, like, I guess for example, does anyone know who like the Milwaukee cannibal serial is?
No, who's that?
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, okay, yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer. I know
Okay,
that name.
so he was known as the Milwaukee like cannibal cannibalism, and like a lot of people portrayed like him having a good childhood because there was never like abuse or anything in the home. Like he seemed to live like a normal life. But then like if you go and like actually watch the documentaries, like he kept animal bones under his bed as a kid. Like he was a loner type person. Like he experienced like kind of some stuff that should have been like red flags on, that never were like pinpointed or brought out until after obviously everything happened. So I mean, like, so like say his parents, why did he have animal bones under his bed? Like like why? Like my mom found animal bones under my bed, she'd be like, what the fuck, Alexis? Like
My parents would actually be concerned and try and get down to like the bottom of it rather than just being like, ah, he's just a kid.
Well, Yvonne says, I think people who eat mayo sandwiches at Subway are psycho.
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's tail signs of someone who develops into a psychopath or a serial killer. Who was the guy that led the cult? That
The
it was
one
like
in Texas.
the one that like everybody, like it was a mass suicide. He led everybody to kill themselves.
Yes,
Oh,
Texas. I watched that. There was actually a documentary on Netflix that just released.
Like that to me is interesting. How do you convince you? The man
It's-
didn't explicitly go out and kill anybody.
It was the Waco Sage. That's what it was.
The wake of
the
Sage.
cults are just like they brainwash people. So like it's so bizarre from like the outside to hear about the shit that goes on in cults like that. But when you really think like that's how cults are, like they brainwash you and you're like so loyal to the cult that like if he tells you to kill yourself, you're gonna kill yourself.
See, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like that's so powerful. Like the dude didn't have to go out and physically kill anybody. Like the dude got into people's heads and convinced them to kill themselves. Like what kind of psychology does this man know? Like what is this man like where does he get his facts from? Like I don't understand. We have go ahead.
There's a lot of like serial killers and all that, like they know how to like, and like rapists too, they all know how to like, they have an eye for people like that. Like they have an eye to figure out who's like really vulnerable emotionally and stuff and can like tell almost. So it's easier for you like a cult leader to like pick out people like they know who's easy to manipulate or to like get in their heads and stuff, and they know what to say. Like everyone who like joins a cult or builds a relationship with like some type of psychopath, like they make you feel some type of way that's like what you needed. Like if you've never felt wanted in your life, like you feel wanted by the cult.
And there was like the Netflix documentary actually tells that story, and like there's a guy that actually got released, and he like told his story of how he became. David Koresh was the leader of the Davidians, called like the Waco, Texas. Instead, like he went out to like the leader went out to a bar and approached him, and he had a really bad home life, and he actually got kicked out because his mom didn't like him anymore and didn't want him to come back home. And they like started loving him and showing him attention and everything, and set him up with a wife there, and that's why he stayed. And he even says he felt loved there, and that's why he decided to go into it, because he didn't believe some of the practices when he first joined.
Yeah.
And then he tried to leave with his wife.
I think that's kind of a crucial element, right? And especially into the development of some psychotic behaviors with people that play on these emotions. There is an emotional element that people kind of take a hold of. It sounds like, and people sort of take advantage of that loneliness, that darkness, that despair that people kind of get into, that the depression aspect. And it's crazy to think that nowadays depression is on the rise. And so I would question to see, you know, how susceptible people actually are to like some of these things now. Or are we becoming more susceptible even though like depression is rising? Or some of these symptoms that plague this kind of are on the increase. So I don't know. Let me get back to some of these comments. We have Strickland joining in. We have Gemini Shaw. What's up, Kat? We talk all the time, though. You're right. I took out the food. Thank you. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre family. Now that family was whacked. Oh, yeah. Yo. Okay, so no one was doing anything wrong in Wacko. They said that there was a molestation thing and stockpile of guns, but no actual proof. So when they went in, they shot back. And yeah, okay.
But they also gave them warning go to like release the children and like to let the government like see kind of what's going on and like the molestation thing, and they never wanted to answer back. Like they boarded up their windows, they boarded up the doors, like several attempts by law. Like I think it could have went over, but then again it was back like it was like 40 years ago, I think.
What
So
was
like it was like
the Waco thing or the Waco?
yeah, Waco, Texas is where it happened.
That's the
And,
Jeffrey
like,
Dahmer thing, right?
it's different from Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
cult thing. Waco, Texas is the cult.
Oh, okay,
that was
okay, okay.
And like the government was there for like 30 days or 40 days trying to get like the children to be released and everything. Like the government, like FBI there.
That's nutty. My mom says you can trace it back. You can always trace it back to the person's upbringing. Never forget Hitler. And then Kat says the cult was about extraterrestrial beings existing, but the people's beliefs were falling apart. And they were starting to question it. I forget the leader's name, but his wife died, and after that, people were trying to leave. And so he said, "Drink this, and we will all be taken to a better place by the beings," basically. Oh, and thus them drinking the poison. So that's, I guess, the synopsis of what happened at the cult. Did you guys hear about the case with the? It was a daycare program where the kids were all in question for being molested, and they were basically blaming the daycare teachers and the owners and everything like that. And so this whole conspiracy had conspired, and they were saying that there was underground tunnels at the day program, there was pathways leading to sex rings and stuff like that for the children, but it was all fabricated. It was all made up by the children, and there was actually no evidence. I forget the name of the program. Mama, I think you might know, but did you guys ever hear about that?
I haven't, but that's really interesting. Like, did all the kids like say like some version of it?
Yeah, so what had happened was apparently there was a national story about someone or something or some child being molested. And so parents started talking to their kids about being molested, and I might not be getting all the facts right, so someone can fact check me. But the parents started questioning their kids, and at this specific day program, they were questioning the kids really intensely. And so when the parents went to go question, they ended up projecting onto the kids these thoughts, and so the kids started making up stories, and they started fabricating all the extravagant narratives. And so they ended up taking down pretty much the entire day program or the daycare. And it's crazy that like everybody's perception of the day program was built on like, a false memory. I don't remember which program it was. So if anybody knows, let me know which one it is.
I do remember reading something that like kids under 4 are a lot easier to go with like the flow of what adults say.
Yeah.
Because I mean I dropped psychology, but this is like one of the few
Martin.
things that was actually talked about. Like kids under the age of like 4 years old, which is primary like daycare age, they're really easily not manipulated more so, but they don't know like their memory isn't the best. And so like if someone gives them a lead, they'll kind of go with it. Like if someone's like trying to figure out what happened and they're just like throwing out ideas, like the kid will pick one and like just kind of run with it. They're like not the best like credible witnesses because of the fact that they're so young, but like their minds are just like easier like because they're still like developing their like they're in like the mimic stage of life where like they just kind of go with what people tell them to.
Right.
So that might have had something to do with it. Like someone just had the lead and all the kids started hearing it and they all started making up like this very fabricated version of it.
Lex, what were you gonna say?
So I found out that case that you're talking about. So I googled it because I had no idea. I'd never heard of it. So it was called the McMartin Priest. And actually, my mom talked about it, and it was this is like a summary. It said the trial ran on for 13 years or 3 years, but it was set. It took 10 years to finally allegate hysteria.
Yeah, and so every one of the kids thought that they had been molested or something like that, even though there was no evidence for it, there was no support. It was a crazy story. And what's it called?
It's called McMartin pre-trial, and
Yeah,
it
that's what I'm
says like
looking at right now.
it says the kids were talking about witches flying, traveled in a balloon, were taken through tunnels, uh, and one child identified Chuck Norris as abuse.
That shouldn't be funny, but it is. That's pretty
So it
funny.
goes on to say that it was because it says the accusations came from a satanic ritual abuse panic that happened that was emerging in the news at the time. So I think honestly, I think they saw it on the news and their parents were talking about it, and then one kid talked and said it happened to them, and then they started like thinking it happened to them and started imagining it because at that you really don't know, and you're gonna believe like your friend in the school next or at the table next to you it's gonna happen. So I think it was like a lot of influence by like the media at that as well, like their parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I was talking about was the person who's like Jemmy shot. I think you said that was Kat. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What she said in the comments about the selective memory is like it's told to you and like that's how like it just really heavily influences you, especially at like a young age like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about Ted Bundy? I know everyone knows about Ted Bundy and what happened, and if you have probably most everyone's seen documentaries, he's had like 5 or 6 that's been reviewed on everything.
I don't know the specifics about Ted Bundy. I mean, I know the name.
You
He's infamous now.
how do you not
I'm
You don't
sorry.
know
You guys
Bundy?
keep breaking up a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, I don't know the specifics of Ted Bundy. I know he was a serial killer. That was pretty much it.
So it was kind of like for him, he was like ulterior like side of him. Like he had like at one point at the very end of his trial, I think he had.
I think she just
froze.
Okay.
Like he uh God, he's very fucked up in the head.
And is he the guy that was like he tried to be his own jury or not
Yes.
jury but attorney?
Yes, that is
Okay.
him.
So he was the one that was
And-
very manipulative, and he was the one that was killing all the women, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was he would rape and kill them. And uh he would like kidnap the girls and then he would rape them and then kill them. And I think it was like from colleges, like more specifically, like he would target like college girls. But he had like a whole nother like personality where like he had a relationship and all this stuff. Like it was a whole 180 compared to like it was just he is so bizarre about like how there's serial killers who will like have a normal like life like with family or with like a girlfriend and like seem like to the people close to them seem completely normal, but on the side, yeah, what Mason said, he had a wife and kids. Like he actually like had a whole family that didn't suspect anything.
Hey Lex, just try and if you're still in the chat, just try and leave and come back, and then I'll admit. There you go. I see you. Perfect. So
It's just bizarre about how like serial killers can have a whole like 2 separate lives.
yeah, so that I mean, it's so weird to think about the pathology. I wonder if he had any bipolar disorder or anything like that. I mean, not to empathize with them, but just curious.
I know I think it's sociopaths. Sociopathic sociopathic people have a really big tendency to be like they seem really charming, they're really good at with people, and they're not like I think it's psychopaths are the ones that people are like more off put by, whereas sociopaths are like really charming, like they're good at like talking to people, they're good at faking emotions. And so in reality, like you don't feel anything, but they're good at faking it and making it seem like they do. So he was definitely sociopathic.
Right. So it doesn't seem like there was more of a turning point for Jeffrey Dahmer. Dahmer. Oh, gosh, I can't talk. I mean, I can read now, but I can't talk. I can read comments. Oh
Yeah, I can't
man.
talk. I can't talk. I can read comments, but I can't talk.
Yeah, it's one or the other for me. You know, you hear me messing up, stuttering, but then I'll read chat fine now. It's so weird. And now I say that it's gonna switch. I'm gonna be so mad. But we have Jules saying to be able to do that, to do what he did, he was sick.
I agree.
Yeah.
What scares me the most is the dark web. You guys ever heard about the dark web?
Yes. Like there's okay, I think it's more so the deep web because there's like the dark web and then there's the deep web.
Right. Okay. That shit scares me. I'm gonna be honest.
I've been on the dark web, but I didn't go as far as like I know it can be. But it's the fact that like you realize like not only can you like hire hitmen and get like the most illegal drugs in the whole world there, but like it's the fact that they literally will sell like kids and have like links for websites of people like abusing kids, and it's just really really fucking bizarre to me about how like everything we see like on the regular like Safari and shit and like on Google and all that, like that's only 5% of the web. Because the real web is like fucked up. Like when if you go to the whole thing, it's just mind blowing that there's so many people that are like into like a lot of sex trafficking also happens on it.
Yeah, and so that's where I really question like humanity. I'm like, all right, well, that really fucked up and sick that literally we have dark web or deep websites that you can travel to. Like you can literally get to if you're just willing to put forth the effort and look where there's people torturing other people.
Oh my god.
Hey Lex.
I
Two
know.
Lex, there we
I
go.
just decided to use my phone because my internet on my laptop just keeps going out. I don't know if it's because it's my MacBook or not.
That's fine. Yeah. Turn it to the side and maybe it'll give you full screen or wide view.
Let's see. Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect.
Look at this.
Yeah, the deep web scares me the most because that's like the darkest parts of the human mind. Like, people are really just fucked up. Like you can literally watch people torturing other people on that. And I don't know how to respond to that. Like other than it's fucked up. You know? Jules on Twitch says it's scary how they have full profile. Hold on, I gotta go over here. Full profiles on people just waiting to get paid to kidnap people. Take your pick of it. Oh, hold on, I gotta go back up and read Kat's comment real quick. I know it sounds almost wrong, but I really believe they should be studied instead of being executed right away.
Yes. Okay. I actually wanted to go into forensic psychology because there's actual people who will meet with like serial killers and stuff like that, and they will interview them and talk to them, and like they're made to like study the actual mind of like these like criminals. And it's always interested me so much, and my mom knows someone who does that, and so I've talked about like maybe like going and talking to her because like there's like forensic psychologists who real life like get inside the minds of like serial killers and stuff, and I want to do that. Like they need to be studied, and it interests me so much. Like I'm not trying to like kill anyone or anything like that. I just want to know why they do what they do.
Right, it's definitely curiosity.
But I will say though, even if they do get lethal injection, they don't die for a good like 10 to 15 years because they give them time to appeal and appeal and appeal. So I feel like within that time frame, you should be able, if you have 10 years, or even if you go and see them every day for a year, I feel like you'll be able to study them enough and know. And because by some point, like even Ted Bundy eventually opened up about everything before he actually was killed. So
go ahead.
No, go. You go.
She actually interjected and said, "Let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein."
Oh my god.
He's still alive. He's on another island right now. They faked his death. Yep.
His girlfriend's about to go on stand if she doesn't get killed off by someone in the government. She's gonna go down and like take down so many powerful people because it doesn't matter what your political views are. Everyone on every side has been involved with it, powerful lawyers. Like, there's just way too many people that are involved, and it's scary how much our government's actually involved with that shit. Like, even with all the, like, missing ICE kids, like, how'd they lose thousands and thousands of ICE kids? Like, you're responsible for them. You keep like, there's detention centers and all that, but they still manage to lose, like, they just go missing. To me, that's just so bizarre, like, I don't understand, like, how you just all these kids go missing, like, it's sex trafficking in my opinion, and, like, I did a paper on sex trafficking, and, like, there's just so many government officials or high up, like, powerful people, celebrities, all that have been involved with all types of sex trafficking.
It's just fucked up. It really is. And in Atlanta, like where we live, is one of the hot zones, man.
I mean, there's been cases at the I live 10 minutes from the Mall of Georgia. There's been stuff going on there about getting, like, in the bathrooms, like, the girls would get kidnapped. Over at, the Walmart down on Hamilton Mill, also only, like, 10 minutes away from me, there was a lot of like, I had a friend who was approached by someone with, like, that church stuff in the middle of the night in a parking lot. She kept looking over her shoulder as if she was talking to like, as if she was looking for someone, like, it's really common and, like, everywhere, and it's so, like, scary to think of, and, like, I remember I had to go to my by myself to the airport, like, last year at, like, 5 o'clock in the morning, or my first flight was at, like, 5 or something like that, I can't remember, and I was just paranoid that I was gonna get sex trafficked in the airport, like, that's what I was worried about because it was dead, there was no one around, I was traveling alone, and so, like, it's just, like, such a big worry that you have to think about because it's a lot more common, and it's not brought up in the news the way it needs to be. There's not that much awareness where it needs like, there needs to be, because also, like I said, like, there's just so many higher up people that are involved in it, and so it's, like, it's sad to say, but Twitter is, like, one of the main platforms where sex trafficking is, like, made aware of, and, like, where you hear about this stuff going on locally. It's all the, like, retweets of, like, "Oh, if you're in this area, like, this just happened to me, da da da," like, it's not in the news. They don't broadcast it. With the missing ICE kids, they barely went over that. They didn't talk about anything that could have possibly happened to them.
Yeah, what happened with the story in Georgia? You guys heard about that? The story in Georgia with the 30 missing kids. The kid, like, literally, the police did a raid and there was 30 missing kids that they had never seen before or that were missing, and they found them. They found
Yeah.
them through a raid, and it was not covered. What the fuck?
I remember seeing, like, one news article about it maybe.
Yeah,
It's
social media was the main news article. Like,
and I really like, that's why I say, like, there's just so many people that are involved with sex trafficking, like, and, like, kidnapping and all that, and, like, child trafficking, like, it's not covered the way it needs to. Like, we had to do essays in my English class, and what I wrote about was, like, sex trafficking and all that, and I did the research, and, like, it's just sad to, like, see, like, how many incidents there are of, like, people going missing, women, or, like, kidnapping stories, and, like, it's touched on some, but then it gets, like, there's not much follow-up or updates with it because it just gets, like, put away, back of the mind.
right. That's what's fucked up to me. Chandler, you don't believe Epstein killed himself? I'm shocked. He killed himself. All right, wait, hold on. He killed himself because of how much he knows and how people. So you think he's actually dead?
I think he's dead.
I think
Really?
he's dead, but I don't think he killed himself. I think it was a fake suicide.
Like, you think he was
I
murdered?
Yeah, oh, 100%. I mean, even okay, how is it in a max security prison that the one night that he kills himself, the guards fall asleep and the security cameras stop working at the same time?
Yeah, I don't think he killed.
And in, like, facilities like that, even, like, mental hospitals, any of that, they do bed checks, like, every 30 minutes. I don't think the guards were actually asleep, I think that they were paid off. I think that there was something that actually happened, like, he was murdered. Like, there was no way he killed himself, like, they're supposed to do, like, they come around in the rooms, like, every 30 minutes or, like, peep in if there's, like, a window and the door shut to make sure people
Yeah,
are
they don't
alive
let
and
you
not doing
have.
stuff.
You don't hang yourself with toilet paper. There's no
They
fucking
don't
way you
even
can do that.
Yeah.
And that's what they were saying. They were saying that this man hung himself with toilet paper. And there's no freaking way you can do that. Have you ever seen toilet paper? Especially the ones at government facilities.
Oh, dear
Hell
God.
no.
I will say though, like when I went to the federal prison in Georgia and we walked by like the people on death row and actually got to see them and they like told us like their protocol. I will say at night, they said during the day they walk around like every hour to 2 hours, and at night it's only every 3 to 4 because of how low staffed they are. So they are like, even in Georgia on death row, they're like, they have windows of opportunity if they really wanted to. And like when you walk by their cells, like the ones in Georgia, like they have books in there. They have like a cabinet, like they have everything. Like it's basically like a whole room for them because of how much stuff they have and how many papers and stuff they're trying to do to like appeal their case.
Yeah, but we're talking about a maximum security prison, not like a. And
They're
we
not going
saw,
to be understaffed.
you saw
that way.
footage of the cells where there's no bookcase. It's just a bed and a toilet, and maybe like a fixture or something. There's no way this man could have hung himself with toilet paper. Absolutely no way. I don't know. Chandler, if you have or Lex, if you have any other disputes, let's go for it.
Well, I don't agree with the whole toilet paper thing. I think honestly the way he died, whether it was murder or he actually killed himself or someone, like anyway, I don't think that they actually released exactly how he died, whether it was murder or a different way.
Yeah,
like I think they released to the public like the whole toilet paper. Everyone knows, like obviously that didn't happen. So even if it was murder or he actually did commit suicide or say he's living on an island somewhere, whatever, I don't think they're gonna let the general public know how they screwed up.
Yeah, and PG said wasn't the autopsy sus too? Yeah.
It's the fact
the government withheld it, to be honest.
What got me too is the picture of him being carried out and the fact that his nose and ears weren't the same. Like, I don't know if y'all seen that. Have y'all seen that comparison? Like, if you look it up, you can find like, so when his body was being carried out of the prison, there was like the side profile picture being taken, and people's ears don't like, you have the like pretty same ear structure, and your nose, unless you get a nose job, isn't gonna change. And his nose, like the bridge was drastically different, and like where all like the curves and like cartilage and stuff in your ear was completely different. Like it was two different ears and it was two different noses. So that's why I can kind of like, I see the theory of like he was like, people say that he was executed to the island where like they keep like top tier like prisoners, like it's just a prisoner island. Like,
yeah, I think they faked his death and the man's still alive.
I don't think he's like,
I think he's still alive.
Like, well, I think he's alive in prison somewhere on that island.
I think the man is alive. I think that they faked his death. That's just me. There is no way, because the autopsy was sus, and if what you're saying is true, that just adds more fuel to the fire. You know, if that's a different face or something like that, or different nose positioning, the man's alive. I mean, and going back to what Kat said, she said the thing that's scary to me is like, what if you ask someone for help and they wouldn't help because they know what's happening? I genuinely 1000% believe that the government is involved in all sex trafficking.
Yeah.
I think the government is very corrupt, whether it's lawyers, judges, police, everything. Yeah. There's bad apples everywhere, but I don't think every single person, obviously, just like every single person that's a human being, is bad in the government.
Yeah, like, there would be too many whistleblowers.
Yeah. There's just a lot of like underground stuff, and like, Dylan, this comment from your mom where she said like how much we have like the CIA, DOD, FBI, and they can't trace like these lost children, like especially like that. There's so many kids that will go missing. There's so many people that go missing, like the missing ICE kids, thousands of them went missing, and they can't track these kids when they have so many high up government agencies, especially when like the ICE kids were in government care, like they were in ICE care, and then suddenly these thousands of kids are missing and they can't find them. It doesn't make sense.
I will say, what is y'all's opinion on us? Like, I know like when adults come over on the border, we put them in jail, but like for kids, like y'all seen like the living conditions that they live in, obviously. Like, I don't think that they should just be deported back to their country with their parents. instead of being
especially
held in government custody.
especially because a lot of kids don't have any control. There's kids that are brought here when they're 2 years old. They grew up here, like, they didn't there's a lot of kids who don't know for a long time that they were illegal, like, that they weren't undocumented, that they weren't, like, here, so, like, it's very unfair because you can be raised here your whole life, and you don't find out way later on you're undocumented, and you get screwed over by it, like, you get completely screwed over by, like, you're deported with the rest, you're kept in terrible living conditions. These little kids, they're like 8 years old, however old they are, they probably don't have an idea of what's happening or have an idea of, like, how they got there.
Yeah, I would like to be empathetic to those kids. Yeah, I think it's a tough situation because I know that there are some people, or some as fucked up as it sounds, there are some people that try to come over and they bring a 2-year-old that's not theirs. And as fucked up as that sounds, it happens. And so they tried to claim that, the child is here, it's a US citizen. I'm going to claim with I'm going to stay with the child. So I don't know. I don't know. My mom says never ever should children be separated from their parents. All right, I know I read that right. So I don't know. I think it's a tricky situation. The humanistic side of me wants to say, you know what, fuck it, let's just let everybody come to America. But I don't know what the real solution is. No, I don't. But getting back to some of the sex trafficking things, I truly believe that if you do not know combat defensive skills,
I agree.
I think everybody should have exercise their right to hold their bare arms. Second Amendment, have a gun, protect yourself. I mean, they'll be like, "Oh, what do you need to protect yourself from? Sex trafficking." I mean, exactly. You never know when it's gonna happen. You just don't. So, let's see. Strickland said, "Should children be able to be used to illegally stay in the country?" I get what you're saying. So should the child be used to be able to legally stay in the country? So if a
So
parent,
the child and the parent, or just the child?
I think he's saying, should the child be used to
No.
legally stay in the country?
He's saying, should children be
Used, yeah,
Like their parents be able to use those kids to stay here?
to claim, to claim citizenship or to
I
say
think I don't think so.
I
To
mean,
be honest,
there's also, okay, a lot of people's green cards will expire, and even if they've been a citizen here for years and years, or like not a citizen, but like have a green card here for years and years and years, and it expires, sometimes the reapplications will take forever and like screw people over, and they'll get separated from their kids. And there's people who come here and they give birth to their kids here, and so their kids are citizens and they're not, and it's just a very complicated situation. And I mean, people get married for green cards. Like my cousin was offered to be paid, like, to marry, like, or not green cards, to get their like actual citizenship, because like there's people who like, because that's just the links that they'll go through. Like, this, it's so hard getting like legal citizenship here,
yeah. I think we need
depending on what country you're from.
I think we need to make it easier for people to claim citizenship.
I agree.
I think the
And
process can
also,
last years, and you still not hear anything about it. I mean, people die before they even get citizenship, and they've been here for like 10 plus years. So I think the process needs to be easier.
there's
Yeah,
a
but
lot
I
of
just
things.
Go ahead.
go.
You can go
I
ahead,
was
Lex.
I was just saying, like, I know, like, when a parent, like, someone crosses the border and has a child here, I think it is like the parent can obviously be a citizen and stay until the child, and then they can apply for their green card at that point, and they'll grant them like the entire application process. But like, I don't think you should be used. Like, I don't think children should be used to get into America to stay, if that makes sense.
It
like
does.
the child's already born and you're trying to use that child to be a citizen. Because I know there's a lady I worked with at my old job, like her daughter's boyfriend, his parents, like he's actually an immigrant and he can't apply to colleges or anything right now because of that. And because he doesn't have like a social security number or anything. So like it's almost impossible. Like he would have to go back to Mexico and then apply to be a foreign exchange student to be able to go to college. So like she's having to actually go through, even though he's about to be 18, she's going through the adoption process to adopt him just so he can go to college. Or because like obviously she doesn't want her child to get married at 18 because they don't know if that's going to work.
Well, you have to be married for 3 years to even become a citizen.
Yeah. So like for him, so she's actually having to go through adoption process to actually let him even go to college here. And he's been here since he was like 6 months.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a complicated process. And we're going back to some of these comments real quick and say, my mom says, I disagree with guns. Well, I disagree with you, mother. Listen, I like guns. I think guns are awesome. I think everybody should have a gun, but that's just me.
I mean,
well, not everybody should have a gun. Okay. Obviously, there are some people that are not mentally stable and they should not have guns.
That's okay. My like where I stand on like the whole gun issue is like not like a gun ban or anything like that, but like there needs to be like more measures, like psych eval, something. Like there's a lot of places that don't do actual like background checks that will just sign off on it. I know someone that technically like legally went to a place where they sell guns. Not 21 years old. He used fake ID. He got a background check, but it didn't check out because he's a felon and he shouldn't have been able to get a gun. And like it's too easy to get your hands on a gun. And so I feel like the process just needs to be made like more thorough, I guess. Like there just needs to be extra measures taken before someone's just like, okay, here's a gun. Like,
yeah, see, I agree. And Strickland says there's no gun loopholes, and I disagree with that. I definitely think there's gun loopholes. If I go out and buy a gun right now, there's nothing that's stopping me from giving it to you as a gift.
Yeah, I mean, I know someone that bought a gun and just gave it to someone, like straight up, just bought a gun within a day. Grant, like she has nothing else.
Kate
like,
says, nah, Paris, he get it from a plug or some shit. A fake idea won't work at a gun store.
No, like I know him personally. Like he does everything like legally.
Really? Josh says yes, make guns harder to get.
He's someone who knows how to fake social security card numbers, everything like that. Like he got that gun at a store.
He the real deal.
Yeah, he's not a good person, and I'm not going to speak on his character.
No names disclosed in this podcast. We ain't
I'm not
going to
name names. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about all the not so legal stuff he does, but
I guess this is definitely
just like straight up like one of my other friends. Like she went and she bought a gun, and she just the next day gave it to this guy, and when he later on like he got arrested and they found the gun. But since the gun was like so newly given to him and like she had just bought it like the week before his arrest, their excuse was like he was holding it for her while she was moving because she was moving at the time. So that charge got dropped. But in reality,
yeah, so
like,
that's a legal excuse though. Like he could literally be holding the gun for her, and that's a loophole. And to say there's no loopholes, I don't know. I don't think guns are bad. No, guns don't kill people. People kill people. And I think that's... Go ahead.
And it's kind of like to touch base on, like, I think, like, psych evals are a big thing because it's like the story about the American sniper, you know, the greatest sniper we've had in U.S. history, the movie, everything about him. And he had severe PTSD when he came back. And he had multiple guns. And he went to a gun range and something went off in his brain. And that was when he turned and shot that guy and killed himself. And I think like
I thought the American sniper was shot by somebody else.
Maybe he took a friend. Yeah, he took a friend to the gun range.
Yeah.
His friend was in the army. Yes, his friend was in the army and had PTSD, and they both were in the army together, and he was going through a lot. And but the guy that shot him and then shot himself, they both had guns of their own. And it's like even the army, like, okay, they carry guns every day, but it's like coming back, like I think you should have a psych eval. Like I don't think guns are bad. I don't think anything like that. Like
my aunt owns a gun store. Like, we're really big into guns in my family, but I do think like people should be evaluated to have a gun, whether it's every year, every few years, to be able to hold that license. Cause I think it would prevent a lot of like things that happen in the society that we live in today.
Yeah, because you don't need a permit or anything to have a gun. You need a permit to carry a gun. And there's a difference. And so to have the license, Dude
Yeah,
Buddy
sorry, Zach. I got messed up on that. I'm
killed
not really
Kyle
familiar
Chris. Is that his name? Dude Buddy? Chris
Yeah,
didn't
Chris
kill anyone
Kyle.
here. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that I messed up because I watched I'm not really big into like watching like the movie and everything. I just remember I knew he died, and it was because like a PTSD incident.
And I know someone who like went and was in war and their leg got blown off. And they had like very bad PTSD, and he legally can no longer have a gun because of an incident that happened where the police were involved and guns were pulled on a lot of people. But like they don't, like there's a lot of vets who come back with PTSD and like they legally can have a gun still, but they don't check for PTSD. They don't check for like any like mental health problems that they have since then. Like there's people, like there's vets who will kill themselves straight up. Like there just needs to be like that psych eval for them too, because they go through trauma there, like what Lex was saying, like there's PTSD and all that. And like I know someone who like lost all their rights to like carry a gun now, and they were in the war, like they fought in a war. I don't know exactly which one it was. Like his leg was blown off, he had PTSD, everything. Like he went through it all, and like he was great in the army, but you come home and you're fucked up in the head, and you have a gun, and you can do like, you can get drunk, make a mistake, get triggered.
Yeah, and DJ, what's up, DJ? Zach says, "Oh no, you're good." Dell says, "Gun laws are not enforced equally, and police don't handle all gun situations the same. If you're mentally fucked up, you don't need to be able to handle a gun. Period. I've seen someone on a PTSD trip before. Very scary." So I agree. I think if you have a psych evaluation that says you're mentally stable, that's a plus. The problem is, sometimes people commit crimes before there's any evidence, like school shooters. I mean, the guy, I mean, I know the Parkland shooter was one that he was on the FBI list, but I don't think he had a psych eval, and he was able to get a gun somehow. Like, I don't know if that's going to be.
And there's people, like, I know this is like out of the parents' control, I guess, but like there's kids who will like take their parents' guns, and there's been accidents that can happen, and it's not necessarily on the parents, but at the same time, like your kid knows you have a gun, they know how to access it, and that's kind of on you.
Right.
Like if you're gonna like, there's plenty of like shooters who can't get who don't have a gun, like school shooters, like just can't go into class, but they can get their hands on their parents' gun.
Happy is actually we've kind of strayed off the original topic. The original topic was serial killers, evil in the world. And
I have a case that's interesting. Do y'all know the John Benet Ramsey case? I know Lex has to know it.
Yeah. I've heard about it recently in my sociology class that we took. It was about serial killers and the minds of them, but we didn't go in depth about it. It was like a name.
She was a little girl. She was a little pageant girl, and she was apparently like at first, like the mom called because there was like a ransom note, like a huge ransom note written, and it was long, like really long, which is unusual for a ransom note. And so she was a little girl, and it turns out like she was murdered, like she was found dead in her basement, which is unusual. Like why would there be left a ransom note and all this stuff? And so it became into like this big thing, and there's like theories that her brother killed her, and there were theories that like the mom wrote the ransom note, because it's so long, and like when you analyze ransom notes or anything like that, like there's a language you can tell if you can tell in the language of like ransom notes and stuff if it was like a man or woman who wrote it, like if they were like had a relationship with the person, or if they're like very distant, if they're very short, if they're very cold and stuff like that. But it was like a 4-page ransom note letter.
That can be told from a ransom. No.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
like notes, especially like if someone's kidnapped and they don't know that person, like a lot of rich people that get kidnapped, usually like if it's someone they don't really know, it's usually like, we want $1 million by such and such. It's not like a whole in-depth like novel, basically. Like there's like
yeah,
key notes between all of them.
and there's like distant language and personal language, using their name, just referring to them as like very like that's one thing, like people who get murdered by like relatives or family members and stuff, they'll try and put distance between themselves and like the situation, like that's found in interviews where they'll be asked and they won't use that person's name. They'll refer to them as like her and stuff. Like you could be very, very close. There was like this girl who hired someone to like kill her parents and stuff, and she was there as they were like being like in, like there was the breaking in the house and she was tied up and all this crazy shit, but she was having very distant language, like she was referring to them as like they, not like my parents, my mom, my dad. Like there's a lot that can be told, and that's the same with writing. Like people who are close to someone will use like names and stuff, whereas they'll just be like her, she, like there's a distance and like not so distant language.
But what if my parents and I were naturally distant to begin with?
I mean, that's different. Like everyone refers to their parents differently. Like
I mean, I'm just, that's a hypothetical situation. I mean, my mom and I luckily are really close, but what if there was a situation where the natural language of the family and the child was just distant?
I'm really distant from my real parents, so like I would refer to them by their real names or just my real parents. Like no one would really know. Like I guess I'd be a suspect for that because like I call my grandparents mom and dad.
All right, well, we know who to go to.
I would do that, but I guess it would be investigating like, are they close enough to use that language or not use that language? I guess that would be a topic on that.
yeah, and it's like, but there was, I mean, the mom called 911 for like the John Benet Ramsey case, like saying that she was like kidnapped and there was this ransom note. Da, da, da. The body's found in the basement, and the parents apparently like searched for the body and didn't find it, and the dad was the one that went down first, and like the whole crime scene was very like contaminated, like people were in and out, like the police didn't have it on lockdown, like the parents were letting people into the house, like it was a very like interesting case, and no one I don't think was ever convicted for it, but I truly believe like it was her brother that did it. Like there was a whole theory behind it. I can't remember exactly what it was, but like, and then the parents helped covered it up.
Well, kind of like, okay, what's your opinion then, since you're saying that, like the impersonal, like the Chris, we kind of talked about it before we did the doc, like we said we were gonna do the podcast, the husband that killed his 2 children and his wife, like obviously there was no ransom note or anything, but like he kept referring to him as his like wife, like his children, he loved them, like in all of the interviews, like the lie detector, he obviously lied on it and they said he lied on it, but it was like he didn't do any of that. And it's like, what about like some people just kind of fake it till they make it kind of thing. So it's like, what about on that?
There's that.
Go ahead, Paris.
Okay, I was gonna let you go, but I mean, there's that too. But like the distant, like the language doesn't always mean anything. It's just a way, like kind of a tell of like what the relationship was to that person. Ransom notes are always short. So like in John Benet's case, like when they were long, like that shows like why would someone, and it was written off like a notepad in their kitchen. No, like no one breaking into a house to kidnap a child is going to sit there and write like a 4-page ransom note letter. And like a lot of people who like will commit, like there are the people who commit murders, but they are sociopathic too. So like they're good at faking emotions, they're good at being empathetic and all that. They'll use that personal language, like they'll refer to as my wife, my kids, like my family. Like that's the one scary part about sociopaths, is they're very good at faking their empathy and faking their emotions and covering up like how they truly feel, like that the fact that they feel nothing.
So do you think a lot of narcissists are sociopaths, everyone? Do you think that would be another? No.
But I feel like a lot of sociopaths are narcissists, but not all narcissists are sociopaths.
That makes sense.
Narcissists are more like self-absorbed, whereas sociopaths just like straight up can't feel for other, like don't feel anything towards other people. Like you're dating someone, you're faking everything you're feeling. They're very good at it. They're very good at building relationships. They come off super charming and stuff. but they're not like they're faking everything that they're feeling.
Yeah.
Let's clarify something real quick. Strickland said the kid, I guess talking about the Parkland shooter, the kid stole his dad's gun, which is obviously illegal. Okay, so we're clarifying that. DJ saying, I know that case, watch a documentary on it in forensic science. Kat saying, it also needs to be a more open conversation on how your kids are doing in friends / people you know in general. Dell saying, I thought this was Fox News for a minute. I don't know. Okay. Okay, bro. What about Timothy McVeigh? I'm not sure who that is. And then Kat said she killed her brother, bruh. All right, here we go. Dude, there's so much that can be told by handwriting, how long it is, what it is, and how it is said, etc. See, the thing is, I think the methods for collecting some of these evidences have been proven to be faulty, like lie detectors, for instance. Lie
You can take a muscle
detectors-
relaxer and pass that.
Yeah,
And any spiked emotion. So if you're asked about someone that you had a past with, even like, and you just feel any sort of very strong emotion for them, it'll show that you're lying.
it's just
those
your
are very
heart
faulty.
rate. It's based off of your heart rate and how your heart rate increases. So if you're in a high intensity situation, I mean, hypothetically, you're on trial for being murdered. Or being murdered. You wouldn't be on trial. You're on trial for killing somebody. Okay, right? So naturally, if you're innocent too, as well, you're going to be nervous about that lie detecting. So your heart rate's going to be elevated. So naturally, you might actually score wrong, or it's going to say that you're lying on something you're telling the truth. Did you guys ever watch the I forget what the show, Truth or Dare? It was like a game show that came on a couple of years ago on like Fox or something.
No, I don't think I've heard of it.
I don't think I have either.
They used a lie detector on the show to ask people revealing questions. And they asked them very intimate questions. And every question they decided to answer right or skip, they could make their way up on the path to $1 million or something like that, 100,000, however much it was. But there was one guy that was asked if he had ever stuffed his pants while he was like a supermodel to make his thing look bigger. And he answered yes. He was like, yes, I did. But it counted him as lying on a national TV show. So I think they canceled it after. It was like, this is not reliable. Like, why are they doing this?
I will say that there's been a lot to be proven. Like you said, the lie detector test is not, I don't believe in that. I don't think that's a good, trustworthy measure to base someone, whether they murdered someone or they just did something wrong.
I know, like, it really depends on like the type of person you are. You can be completely innocent and still fail lie detector tests because you're high on emotions. Like,
yeah.
It's not just your heart rate, it's like how your whole body's reacting, like the sweat on your fingertips and stuff like that. Like, because they have a little clamp on your fingertips, it's about that stuff too. And also, like, lie detector tests aren't admissible in court because they know they're not 100% accurate. Like, they know there's people, like sociopaths could probably pass it with no problem. There's ways around it. Like, someone could take like a anxiety medicine and be completely calm during it and not get the anxiety that they would have for certain questions that they should be failing on, but they're not going to fail on. So it's just a very faulty method. I agree with that. Like, it's just not gonna, they don't work, in my opinion. Like, I'm sure that they do work, but like, they also are very like, it depends on the type of person you're dealing with and the questions that are being asked. And I mean, what if like a husband's being asked about his wife who was murdered? Like, he's gonna get upset, like if they're like trying to ask him if he did it, and he genuinely could have not done it, but that question makes him so upset to the point where it shows like he lied.
Right.
But that's, I guess, the one nice part about it not being admissible in court either, is the fact that you can get away with it. Like,
Well, that's the
You need
other thing.
evidence to support it.
Right, that's the other thing. And Iman's saying I think it's used more as an interrogation tool. And what's up, OP? Good to see you,
Yeah.
buddy. He's saying it's used more, and I'll go back to some of these comments. I'm just jumping around. Used more as an interrogation tool, and that's part of the issue, right? Is because the way that they interrogate people sometimes is they set people up in these environments, and sometimes you could be like interrogated for a long time.
There's
And you're
people who will falsely make a false confession for the fact of like they've been interrogated for so long or being
Yeah,
asked like they break you down like if they really are dead set on the fact that you did it, like they're gonna do it. Central Park 5, for example, like they all got like bad confessions from every single one of them that blamed other people, but they got the confessions even though none of them were involved. Like
yeah.
that's what makes it so fucked up.
I'm not saying that the criminal justice system is perfect, nor am I saying is it completely corrupted. I'm just saying it needs. That's it.
Yeah.
Needs some work.
A lot of work.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back to some of these comments. But in high stress situations, it's more natural for you to act caring and loving if you're genuinely afraid and in danger. I think we're talking about, the use of language. But it's so obvious that he was the killer, talking about the brother or the father that killed his wife and kids. He had no empathy the whole time. He didn't even shed a tear until he was caught. I ate some fire pepper steaks. What's up, Overlord? Let's see. My mom's ex-boyfriend was a sociopath, and it was terrifying. The Oklahoma City bombing. That one. The dude that invented the lie detector came out and said to not trust it. He would make her feel bad for him. Talking about, I think your mother's ex-boyfriend. He would make her feel bad for him, make her feel really happy one minute, and then the next he maxed out all of her credit cards and turned it around, and so she felt guilty as if she had done something wrong. Oh wow, that's fucked up, dude. We're glad he's the ex now, not the current. It was a whole mess. He denounced his own invention, LOL, yet we still use it. Dylan, he was the one that rented the Ryder truck. What he did, the Oklahoma City bombing. My friend had to take a test for a job. She has never done drugs in her life, but it said she lied when they asked her if she had ever done coke.
There's
Yeah.
one thing about lie detector tests too, since they're not admissible in court, people straight up like tell everything that they did to someone or whatever the case is, and it's not admissible in court. It's not like legible for anything. You want a restraining order against someone, it's not going to count. Someone can straight up admit everything that they did to someone, and they can't do anything without evidence or an actual like basis.
I will say, do y'all know anything about the Central Park 5
Yes.
murder? Do you know anything about it?
I know she does, but
So like
How
I
am
guess
not
I was
familiar?
touching base on like the interrogation, like we were talking about like the interrogation time's a long time and that gets people to like to confess and everything, and like they'll lock them in, and obviously doing the lie detector, like we kind of restrain them from like having any like out. So like the Central Park 5 was like done in, I think it was like in the late 80s, like 89 or 1990, I think.
right.
It was about 5 black boys that got falsely convicted of a rape that happened in a park, and they all went away because they all like the cops and everything were like kept them all overnight, and most of them were underage too, under the age of 18. Like they were like,
And they were they were
school.
getting away with interviewing them without parents present or calling their parents
or anything. And they eventually that night they eventually admitted to the rape and everything after being interrogated, I think over like 24 hours without food, water, sleep. Like they just kept coming in, or they just like
and
yell at them and say that they did it, and then they finally went away. And one of them went to adult prison. I think the other 4 I think went to juvenile, and then they finally
I
got
think
out.
it was Corey that went to adult prison, and he was the reason why they all got out. He met someone in prison, and it was the actual person who did it, and he felt it was such a sad story for that like murder, like for the one that was, I guess he ended up being like a serial murderer, but like rapist. but it's just like sad, and like all the kids didn't even know each other. Like some of them didn't know each other, but they were still saying like uh they would still be like, yeah, that person did that, because the police were taking a story, running with it, and pushing it so hard to where the kids were just agreeing to it.
So it kind of just goes back to that. Do y'all agree with like the interrogation methods that we used back then to now? Because like the lie detector test and like for several days and just kind of going back and forth with everyone, even if they admit several times, like even with a lawyer present, that they didn't do it. I mean, they could have done it, but I'm just saying, like, if they really didn't do it, do y'all think like we press interrogation for crimes
In the U.S., yeah, probably.
Yes, in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like in
And
the
it's
U.S.
really-
Whether it's like the FBI, CIA, like we don't really know about like the interrogations, not like the ones that are like very small that happen like just at the county police station, but like the really big ones.
Yeah.
I mean, it like if they want you to be guilty of it, they'll narrow in on you. They'll be interrogating you to the point of like, if they want to make you do it, like that's how it was for the Central Park Five. Like they wanted them to be the ones responsible for it. And even like, I don't know how true this is, but like in the Netflix documentary, when the woman was first looking over the case, they said something about how far the like two locations where the kids were at where they were all saying that they were at versus where the actual rape happened. It was like too far of a distance. Like
When was
how
this
could the
case,
kids
though?
get there?
It's called the Central Park Five.
No, well, when was it?
1989 or 1990.
It was a while ago, but it's very highly publicized. It was a huge thing when it came out on Netflix. They sued the state and got millions of dollars.
Luckily,
They
I
didn't get
think we've
released, though.
changed some of our practices since then. Also, luckily, we have Vodek in chat, who is an actual lawyer in Finland. So maybe you can educate us a little bit, Vodek. What's up, buddy? Iman's saying it's completely corrupted. Talking about the justice system. Do you remember the Casey Anthony story? Yes.
Oh yeah.
Actually, before we go into Casey Anthony, Trump did a full page ad claim.
Trump did a full page ad claim they were guilty.
Are you talking about the one case? I didn't hear about that.
Casey
I
Anthony.
did about the Central Park Five because I know Trump lived in New York.
Howdy. Let's see. The problem is that the problem with the lie detector is if it comes back, the person is not telling the truth, even if they are. This still plants a seed of guilt in the interrogator's mind. That's true. Actually, did you guys hear about the? Oh, I guess that's not really relevant, right? That was an important question. Did you guys hear about the Stanford prisoner experiment?
No, I didn't.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay,
So-
Dylan, give me a synopsis.
All right, so
Yes, I
basically,
want to know.
I don't think we have the Discord command. Just scroll down to the bottom of the Discord, and if you're on the browser version, just scroll down, and you should be able to get the link. But so the Stanford prison experiment was done by Philip Zimbab. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but basically, he conducted an experiment where he randomly selected people to be prisoners or wardens or prison guards. And during the length of the experiment, people were stripped of their names and given like an ID number, the prisoners at least. And the people were told that it was supposed to be completely experimental. But the power of the environment was so suggestive that the people in the experiment started to believe that they were actually the positions and roles that they were given. It's really interesting. You should go look it up. Anybody in the chat, if you want to know a little bit more about how environment can cultivate who you are, that's an important experiment to kind of get down. Apparently it was so bad that the guards started acting as like prison guards and being kind of abusive towards some of the patients because they had full authority and full power over the patients, that the experimenters had to just cut the experiment quick, or they had to cut it short a few days in. Like they weren't able to go the full length of time. So I highly recommend anybody go look that experiment up. They used leading questions and actions in that experiment too. They were trying to push the guards to be mean. Yeah. let's see. Let me get back to some of these real quick. I can't remember what the case was called or the guy named, but because of the interrogations, he admitted to almost 200 unsolved murders and rape cases because the person interrogating him was giving him all the details, almost pushing him to admit to all of it. It's a documentary on Netflix. Damn, Netflix just teaches us all.
I will say, to touch base on that experiment thing, my brother is actually an officer in the jail in Hall County. And before there, he was in the juvenile detention center. And in the juvenile detention center, they do go through like several trainings, whether in the jail and the center. And he started out at like, I think 19 being an officer. And at that age, he was kind of like the same age as some of the inmates in the juvenile center. And they kind of taught them it was more of like a rehabilitation at that point of the juvenile, because obviously they're still young, they're trying to change them and bring them up better in society.
Right.
And he said in the jail it's kind of different, because my mom was asking him some of these questions, and he was saying they kind of teach them, even in training, like obviously to treat them as humans, but also they kind of do teach them, even as officers, to kind of treat them like they don't have any rights in that jail, and that obviously you are over them. And they kind of, like he said, some of the officers take it to the extent of like treating them kind of like animals. And it does kind of show like the corruptness of our jails and like the government as a whole, like in that. And he even says, and it's kind of disturbing, because some of the times the prisoners will start beating the officers because of that, because of how badly they treat them. And he said even in the county jail, most of them there are just like misdemeanors, like they have like level 1, 2, and 3 that are like not that really like high of offenders. It's just like mostly some stuff, and then like 5, 6, 7, and 8 is like where they get medium and like kind of max facility until they can get them out. And he even says that they kind of teach them to treat them like animals and to be mean.
See,
I believe it.
for me, it's, I don't know what the more interesting question is. Is it just our natural predisposition to treat people in a lower position? Like if you think someone has no rights, like a prisoner, is it just our natural predisposition as a human being to do that? Like, because that was the whole point of the prison experiment, was to show that how powerful your environment really is on your state of mind, because all these people were considered relatively good people. And Miss Peachy, I think the experimenters actually called it quits, because I was reading a book by Philip Zimbob. I gotta say it shortly, but it's called gosh, it's a good book. I forget what it's called, but something. I'll post it later. But I think the experiment is actually called it quit, because the people in the experiment weren't knowledgeable enough, or they thought that the situation was assumed, so they actually thought that they were actually prisoners at one point. It's a really weird case. So going back up, Strickland said that experiment was kind of cool, but to be honest, terrible but interesting. Good adjectives there. Just shows human nature when we are stripped of our mind and personality. Let's see, we got to that one. Interesting. A very disturbing case is one about a young boy who was accused of stealing a backpack, which he didn't, and ended up spending 3 years at Rikers Island. After 3, he was released and took his life. Let's see. What's up, Matt? I'll double check, but I just rewatched the film for class, and all the prisoners dropped out. They were forced to, ended, I thought. That might have been so the language was they were forced to end. That was the language. So you might be right on the reason for why, but from what I understood, from the forced to, I guess he didn't go into detail then. When he said he was forced to end it sounded like he was saying that he ended it himself. I guess at least in the book, I guess sound like he was being nice. But yeah. Get where we are now.
You were just talking about human nature, though, like, and if you were a guard, like, say you were a guard, like, is it your human nature, since these prisoners don't have rights, and obviously they're there, and for the amount of time that they're allocated from the judge, do we treat them like obviously lower as us because of the power we hold, or is it taught to us by the training that we do?
Yeah, did you ever hear that? We're just done experiments now. ever hear of the Milgram experiment?
I don't think so.
The Milgram
I
experiment,
don't think so.
that came shortly after World War II, where the experimenters were trying to figure out, like, how could a country of people commit such an atrocity like genocide and killing Jews and stuff like that. And so the Milgram experiment was set in place to see how individuals responded to pressure from an authority figure. And basically, they had one guy sit on one side and ask a fake person a question, but the participant thought that the fake person was a real person. And so they were supposed to administer a shock to the person on the other side answering the questions if they got the question wrong. So the participant was told that the experiment was to help them learn better. They were testing a new method of learning. And what they were really trying to see is how far that participant would go in the level of shocks. And it was a high percentage. I don't remember the exact number, but a high percentage of the people that were participants administered all the way up to the max shock under an authority figure. It was really interesting.
I will say, even like today in our society, whether like the job you hold and stuff, I do think that some of the like your bosses can like push you to go against, like, even some people admit it goes against their values and everything that they stand for, but they do it because of that authority figure above them. And I think that goes even like in today's world, like with any of our jobs that we hold, whether it's not obviously genocide or anything that's going on right now, but even just in everyday life, I think that happens with people.
Yeah,
I agree.
imagine like we're closing at we're actually above the hour, so I apologize to you. But
Sorry, Nikki.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Nikki. But yeah, it just goes to show, sociopolitically, how far people view it that way. It's wild. If they're told by a political figure, I mean, why do you think celebrities are being used to endorse specific candidates now?
Because of the influence that they hold over other people. And
Yeah.
I really think that's why we have so many people voting this year. I honestly believe it. Like,
Because celebrities are saying it?
Well, there's a thing.
Not
on
because
Selena
I'm getting
Gomez.
like 56, or 50,000 text messages.
Well, that too, from names. And it's not my thing is I get these texts from someone in Texas and my name's Richard and I'm not like, what? But I even like, there's this thing that came out today I saw on Facebook. Selena Gomez is 28 and has never voted until today.
What?
Wow.
Yep. So it's like, okay, she started voting this year. So like, I guess it pushes other people to start voting.
Yeah. I mean,
It blows my mind how some people will be like very like there's people who one of my friends, like, their parents didn't vote ever until last year for the first time, and I'm like, I don't understand. Like,
My
how you
mom has never voted and she's 63. Never.
oh my god,
She refuses.
that's
to
so
vote.
bizarre to me. Like,
well,
that's
to
just
each
so
their
bizarre.
own, maybe they don't
She
want
says
to.
that she says it doesn't matter because the way the government works, they're gonna pick who they want to pick anyway, and that's what she thinks. And I mean, to an extent, the electoral college, it holds like majority. It happened already. Like, it doesn't matter what the people say. The electoral, and like she said, my vote doesn't count as much as the electoral does.
Right.
And I mean, and it is. I can see her stand, and I can see a lot of people's standpoint that when I've met and I've asked them if they voted, like not who they voted for, but just have they voted, and a lot of them say they don't because of that reason.
Law revolution. What's up, Sammy? No, honestly, I'm gonna vote, but I've been so tempted to just say, fuck all these text messages. You make me not want to vote.
I've
know.
muted every single number that like will text me. I've just muted them so I like their messages will maybe pop up on my laptop, but I keep my laptop on do not disturb most of the time, and I have them muted, and I don't really check my texts or open them like that, so they just pile up.
I'm just over them.
I don't get the notifications when I go to my text messages. Most of the time I'm just opening a text received to me, so I'm not going through what actually is, because I don't care about like, oh, I don't open all my texts. Like, I'm that person that has like all the message icons for every freaking app that everyone hates, like, but
I I got a text message earlier today that was like, "Hey, can we count on you to vote for this specific issue?" And I was like, I could. It was an actual person that was texting me this time, and I was like, "Bro," I messaged back and I said, "Listen, you make me not want to vote for your issue. Please remove me from your freaking list. Like, I'm done. Like, stop." I was
Start
so
blocking their numbers.
done. I
Just
have
block their
been,
numbers.
but there's
I
so
haven't. They're
many
different
numbers.
I don't know how
They
they
are.
I think I don't know how they get because you register to vote and like it's when you click a link and you're just like typing in your phone number for something, like they get your number and you get added to a list for the text messages. Like I don't get how so many places get so many numbers.
I wonder how
Oh
the
my
people in Texas got my number and where Richard came from is what I'd like to know.
It's okay. I've had both my number and my sister's number are old numbers of my dad, and so I'll have people text me thinking I'm my dad, and I've had this number for like 7 years. And I'm like, he's had a new number. He's a real estate agent. You can find it online. Like,
Adele, I don't think anybody is saying it's a bad thing to engage in the democratic process. I don't think that point was made at all. So I don't know where that.
I don't care
that's coming
what you're.
from.
I don't have anything against Democrats or Republicans.
No, he's asking.
no, like as in the voting process.
Yeah,
like,
he's asking why is it a bad thing for us that we engage in the democratic process? No one's saying that. They were saying reasons why people said that they weren't going to vote, and that was justified reason. They weren't saying that it's a bad thing to engage in the democratic. Gosh, I cannot say that democratic process.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I mean, honestly, like at my standpoint, I think we should have an electoral college, but a lot of people and a lot of older people don't think we should have one. And I know, like some of the younger generation doesn't agree that we should have one, and they want it. Like the Democrats want to remove it.
I feel like it's a very outdated system, so they just need to like kind of update it because the popular vote in a state won't always get the electoral college's vote.
Yeah.
And so
go ahead.
I feel like at the very least, like maybe they should match what the state is, because if the majority of a state feels a certain way, like maybe that they should vote with the state. It just depends, and it's such a electoral college is something else.
But the only problem with doing that though is like California has like the most. They have like 30, and I think Georgia has like 13. So if 30, say they all pick Democrat or Republican, and that whole state, 30 of them vote that.
It's the swing states that are important, though. It's all the swing states that are important. Those are the ones where the most campaigning is going on. I mean, they think Georgia this year. There's been a lot of campaigning this year. Like Trump's son is down here doing a lot of campaigns, and then I can't remember who's doing all the campaigning right now for the Democratic side, but there's a lot of campaigning going on here, and we're always a red state, but I feel like this year, like people are saying like they could be potential like swing states, and those are the ones that like really need the votes, because even though like California has so many like votes in the electoral college, in reality that one doesn't matter. Like it's
the reason why they have so much is
up.
because they have such a big population.
Yeah, it's based off population.
It's all based off type. Yeah.
Do they really have 30? I thought it was less than that.
No, it's 30. They're the highest.
Damn. Okay.
So they're like tied.
So guys, we're gonna go ahead and call it because we're about 23 minutes over.
Yeah. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, that was actually fun. I appreciate it. I lost track of time. But I'll leave everybody with food for thought then. I actually am a proponent of the democratic process. I think democracy is the best way to go. But
I agree.
I forget which philosopher. It was either Plato or Socrates that said, you should go for 130 LOL. Go for 6 more minutes. Right. But he said that if you're the captain of a ship sailing from Europe to America, in a democratic process, you'd want everybody on that ship that's not knowledgeable and navigating the ship to tell you how the ship is run. Would that lead to the best outcome? And I'm not saying that democracy is not a great choice, and I'm not saying it's not the best choice. It just makes an interesting argument. It makes an interesting point for the ones that are competent enough versus not competent So, Del, I think you'd answer that interestingly. Just let me know. But everybody, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been Miss Lex. This has been Miss Paris. Thank you, everybody.
Night.
Great
Bye, guys.
Bye.
I love each and every one of you. Sammy, I love you. We can't make it another 5 minutes. My wife would kill me. I got food waiting. Very engaging topic. Can I call you, Dylan? Can you call me tomorrow? My wife is not feeling good. Nikki is a little sick. So it'd be a little bit easier for you to call me tomorrow, if that's okay. Unless it's really important. If it's really important, go ahead and call me tonight. But other than that, everybody, thank you so much. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for daydreaming with me. I'm going to go ahead and raid my man, Mr. Dank Orejano. Thank you for coming out. Y'all come raid me. I got to raid Kaylor tonight. I raided you last time, buddy. I love you. CTV. I love you, Matt. I will raid you next time. I haven't raided Kaylor in a while, so I have to raid him because, you know, the blonde boy. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for daydreaming. Smash that like button on YouTube. Have a great evening. Bye, guys. This is the awkward part where we wait 9 seconds. 4 seconds, sorry. And raid.